Night wind knifed across the Afghan ridge as hollow point. Army Special Forces sniper, wrapped in a shredded ghillie suit and dragging her polished Barrett .50 like a loyal dog, slid into her rocky hide, breath frosting in the frozen air as a convoy miles away killed its headlights, leaving a single figure stepping into darkness just as a faint red laser crawled across her cheek, a silent threat she didn't flinch from. She belly-crawled forward, shale cracking under her ribs, checking wind, humidity, elevation, while a rock tumbled behind her, too heavy to be the wind. Yet no one was there when she glanced back. Static fizzed in her earpiece before a broken whisper said, "Run," but she only smirked, leveling the Barrett, night air tightening around her as another shadow drifted across her scope, gone before she could blink, forcing her finger to pause on the trigger while the ridge hummed with a danger she could physically feel through the ground. The ridge was a graveyard of wind and broken shale, the kind of terrain that swallowed amateurs whole and spat out nothing but gear tags. Hollow Point crawled into position long before the moon even cleared the eastern cliffs, her ghillie suit gathering frost as she pulled the Barrett .50 close like a living creature. Every few seconds the wind shrieked, then dropped into a suffocating silence. Micro-hook, tight enough that she could hear her own pulse thudding against her ear cup. She checked her elevation turret, then paused as a faint crunch echoed behind her, like someone stepping on a thin rib of ice. She froze. Nothing moved. No silhouette. No breath. Just the dark breathing slowly back at her. She resumed setup. Bipod locked. Rear bag positioned. Barrel kissed the rock edge. Another micro hook, a metallic ting in the distance, too sharp, too intentional, made her shift her cheek weld, eyes narrowing. Flashback triggered. In the armory, the guys snickering as she stripped the Barrett down to the last firing pin. "It's a .50, sweetheart," one joked. "You don't clean it. You pray it doesn't kill you." She didn't respond then. She just learned every inch of the beast. And now, on this ridge, that knowledge felt like a loaded secret the mountains wanted to test. The convoy emerged like a slow-moving scar across the valley floor, headlights off, engines humming low, heat signatures flickering on her thermal scope like restless ghosts. She adjusted focus, and a micro hook hit instantly. Her weather meter spiked from 12 miles per hour crosswind to 0. Wind doesn't die like that. Not on this ridge. She tapped the device, shook it, then tossed it aside, relying on instinct. The same instinct drilled into her by a sergeant who believed calculators were for cowards. She shifted her firing angle to track the lead vehicle. A door opened. A tall figure stepped out, armor bulkier than it should be. Another micro hook. A secondary IR flare blinked behind the rear vehicle. Someone moving independently, sloppy, hunched wrong. Hollow Point lowered her breathing, watching dust trails rise unnaturally straight upward, as if the wind were being sucked vertically. She tasted metal on her tongue, an omen she'd learned not to ignore. Flashback. The day she begged for sniper qualification and they handed her a broom instead. "You want to shoot? Clean the damn armory." She cleaned every weapon until the instructors started betting on when she'd quit. She never did. Every rifle told her its secrets. The Barrett told her the loudest ones. Now, watching the convoy tighten formation, she felt the ridge shift beneath her elbows, as if something else was watching them all. A perfect glint flashed on a distant peak. Micro hook, sharp enough to slice her focus clean in half. Hollow Point shifted discipline silent, angling her scope toward the origin. Nothing. Just ridgeline. Dead stone. Black sky. Then, another micro hook. A faint metallic chirp ripple echoed across the valley. Counter sniper. Trained. Confident. Close enough to be a threat, but far enough to think they were invisible. She tightened grip on her rifle, rolled to her left, and the bullet snapped past where her head had been a second earlier. Silent entry, angry exit. The echo hit 2 seconds later. Long range. She inhaled, letting her internal mapping kick in. Every ricochet told a story. Every echo betrayed a grid coordinate. Flashback, bleeding in a hide during training, using sound to estimate enemy position because her scope cracked when she fell off a ridge. That day taught her the kind of hunting only desperation can unlock. She pressed her ear to the ground. Micro hook. The vibration of a second sniper round whispered through the earth like a warning pulse. She now knew the direction, elevation, and likely caliber. Whoever they were, They weren't shooting to warn. They were shooting to erase. She rotated her rifle slightly, marking the counter-sniper's nest in her mind. This ridge wasn't a battlefield. It was a duel. The wind returned with a vengeance, swirling dust across her scope like a sandstorm being born from nothing. Hollow Point exhaled slow, tracking the direction of each grid arc. Then, a micro hook, her ghillie suit lifted slightly, like fingers brushing through the strands. Not wind. Too deliberate. Too slow. She whipped her suppressed sidearm free, but found nothing behind her except rocks and a darkness so thick it felt weighted. Her heartbeat steadied. She had no time for ghosts, only threats. She rolled back onto the Barrett and spotted a shift on the counter-sniper ridge. He was moving, repositioning for a clearer shot. Smart, aggressive, predictable. She used the swirling wind as cover, crawling 3 feet to her right and re-anchoring her bipod. Another micro hook. A tiny vibration thrummed through the ground, as if someone else had just taken position nearby. Friendly? Impossible. Reinforcement? Not scheduled. Enemy? Likely. Flashback hit. Her first true long-distance operation. Wind slicing her cheeks raw. Her instructor chanting, "Wind is a liar. Terrain is the truth." She scanned terrain now. Valley funnel, cross currents, thermal lift. Everything was wrong. Off pattern. As if the environment itself were shifting. She adjusted elevation by feel alone, trusting muscle memory over data. Below, the convoy halted entirely. Something big was coming. Something none of them were ready for. A dragging shuffle scratched behind her, micro hook, and she whipped around, ready to fire, only to find her spotter crawling into view, pale, bleeding, one hand clamped over his ribs. "Not dead yet," he rasped. "But you're shooting more than one target." He pointed down toward the convoy. Through the scope, Hollow Point saw the tall armored figure again, this time dragging someone from the rear vehicle. Hooded, bound, slumped forward. A hostage. The hostage's height, posture, and clothing screamed intelligence officer, someone important enough to transport in the dark with no escort. Another micro hook. A second figure stepped behind them, scanning the valley with a device she recognized instantly, a narrow-beam counter-sniper detector. If that device got her angle, the next round wouldn't miss. She repositioned, micro-adjusting her cheek weld. Her spotter coughed blood and whispered the distances. Flashback. Her secret skill, calculating moving shots using peripheral vision alone. She locked in. Hostage sway pattern, left-right. Armored target stance, wide. Counter-sniper relocation path, predictable arc. She could hit 2 threats with a single consecutive shot sequence if her timing was god-tier perfect. The ridge trembled again. Another presence? Another hunter? Too many unknowns. Too little time. Her finger rapped the trigger. Decision moment. Hollow Point steadied her breathing. Every inhale slicing the cold like a razor as she aligned the Barrett for the longest, dirtiest, most unforgiving shot of her life. The target stood beside the hostage. Too close, too armored, too confident. And then, micro hook, a faint clink of metal behind her, like someone dropping a pin on stone. She didn't turn, didn't blink, didn't breathe wrong. She simply shifted her thumb's safety with a slow, surgical click. The counter-sniper's glint appeared again on the far ridge, brighter this time. He had her locked. She whispered to her spotter, 2 seconds. Count it. He groaned, but nodded. She exhaled long, letting her heartbeat sink with the weapon until everything, fear, wind, pain, flattened into silence. She fired. The Barrett cracked like thunder splitting the world. Micro hook, a second barrel flashed behind her, a suppressed hiss slicing past her ear. She ignored it. Her shot arced perfectly, smashing through the counter-sniper's optic before shredding his skull. 1 second later, she fired again. Rapid .50 cal timing nobody believed was humanly possible. The round punched through the armored target's chest plate, yanking him sideways without touching the hostage. The ridge shook as a dying enemy behind her collapsed, throat blown open by a round she didn't fire. Her spotter had taken the final kill. She scanned the valley, breath steady. Mission done, but someone else had been hunting her tonight, and she'd hunt back tomorrow. Dawn bled across the ridge in thin, golden veins, turning the shattered rock into a battlefield of shadows as Hollow Point holstered the Barrett across her chest. The hostage was already being airlifted out by the dust-whipping evac bird below, her silhouette trembling in the harness, but Hollow Point didn't watch the ascent. She watched the far peak where the counter-sniper died, scanning for movement, for heat, for anything that didn't belong. Micro hook. A faint echo drifted back across the valley, a delayed metallic ring that shouldn't exist with both enemy rifles silent. Someone else had been here. Someone good. Her spotter coughed, sitting upright, wincing hard. "We'll get chewed out for this," he muttered. She cracked a tired half-smile. "We always do." On the radio, command erupted, confirming the 3,347-meter kill, replaying the impossible shot feed like kids watching fireworks. The same men who mocked her for cleaning the Barrett now sounded breathless, stumbling over their own disbelief. She didn't respond. She sat on the ridge, pulling a rag from her pouch, wiping carbon and frost from the Barrett's receiver with slow, ritualistic care. The wind shifted. Micro hook, a single footprint in the dust behind her, fresh, not hers, not her spotters, leading away from the ridge. Whoever had hunted her tonight wasn't finished, and neither was she.